Welcome to the 5 Rules of Negotiating Commercial, Industrial, and Retail Leases, presented to you by Just Elementary Inc. I'm Pramod Patel, and let's get started. Rule number 1, know who your landlord is. If you're working with the property manager or some other intermediary, do your best to try to meet with the people who actually own the property. If you're already working with them directly, then identifying whether they're an individual owner, an investment group, an institutional owner is going to be key to you, because you need to figure out what their needs are. And that leads us to rule number 2, which is getting to know your landlord's needs. Number 1 priority they have is to make sure they cover their debt service on the property. So it is your job to find out, whatever methods you can, how much and what they owe on the property, and if any balloons they have due coming soon. The reason is, if the property is highly leveraged, you're likely going to have resistance to negotiating your rate down, because they need to make their payments and their bank's applying pressure to them. So that's your number 1 thing you need to find out when you're negotiating your lease. Now, when it comes to individual types of landlords, if it's an individual landlord, they may simply be looking for some steady retirement income. So they'll work with you on a longer term, as long as it's a rate that they feel they can either live off of or fund whatever they're trying to fund. When it comes to a group of investors, you're going to find typically they have an investment goal in mind, where they bought the property, they're planning on holding it for a period of, let's say, 3 to 5, maybe 7 years, and they're going to sell it and hopefully sell it at a profit. So what that means is they're likely not going to work with you as much on the rate, but they will probably give you some short-term incentives, such as some free rent, some discounted rent for the first periods of months, because they're looking at signing up a long-term lease that then they can resell at a higher value. When it comes to an institutional landlord, what you're going to be looking at is a landlord that's really just looking for a basic return year to year to year. Now, they may not be into some grand desire of selling the property in 3 years or 5 years or 7 years, but they may want some steady, solid rates year to year to year. So they can be a little bit harder to work with, and they take a longer time, but stay persistent. Now, on to rule number 3. Once you've identified the type of landlord you're working with, you need to make a plan of how you're going to approach the negotiations. So obviously, number 1 thing to you is going to be the rate, how much you're going to pay on a monthly and annual basis. But it goes more beyond that. You also need to consider how you're going to negotiate for option terms, if you want any, how you're going to negotiate a assignment clause, how you're going to negotiate your share responsibilities when it comes to maintenance of the property inside and out, and then also the common area maintenance. And so when you're making this plan, have specific ranges in mind, that you'll go high as this in the rate, and maybe you'll try to get down as this low in your rate. And then also what you want to be responsible for on maintenance of the property, and what you don't want to be responsible for on the maintenance. How strongly you want to push an assignment clause and an assignment fee. All these things are very important for you to have in mind before you begin your negotiations, so you know where you're going to start and end. And this leads us to rule number 4, the rule of persistence. The process diverges here a little bit if you're already an existing lease and an existing tenant, or if you're negotiating a new lease. So we'll start with a new tenant. As a new tenant, you just really want to stay focused and persistent on your terms. This is really your best chance to negotiate, because you have the most leverage as you are coming in to fill a void. So act quickly so somebody else doesn't scoop you for the property, but also stay focused on the terms. You made your plan, the rule before, and so stick with it and get terms you can live with, because you need good terms to survive in this climate. Now, if you're already in the space to begin with on a current lease, you have less leverage, so it's going to take you more time and determination to get through to your landlord and get your way. We're looking at a few weeks to maybe even a few months before your persistence will pay off. Now, on to rule number 5. Accept reasonable terms and move on. Like we did previously in rule number 3, we defined a plan and what terms we're willing to accept. So what you don't want to do if you're negotiating a new lease is try to grind down to get more than you wanted, because you may lose the space with somebody else coming in. And also in a renegotiation situation, it's the same thing. You need to take your time and attention and energy and focus and put it back to your business and take it off of renegotiating your lease once you find terms that are acceptable. So again, accept good terms and move on. So thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos. Also, feel free to subscribe to the newsletter via the website, or just email in your request at cs@justelementary.com. And don't forget the website address is www.justelementary.com. You can also reach us by telephone at area code 323-213-9193. Take care.